There is a tree the desert never forgot. Long before sugar ruled the world, before factories and plantations, before irrigation canals carved up the land, this tree fed people where nothing else could live. For over 4,000 years, its golden pods kept entire civilizations alive in the harshest deserts on Earth. Then, in less than a century, humans tried to erase it. They called it a weed. They burned it, they poisoned it, they cut it down to bare ground. But underground, it was waiting. This is the story of the mesquite tree, the forgotten sugar of the desert, and the plant that may outlive modern agriculture itself. Welcome to the Nature Lost Vault. The archive opens in the Sonoran Desert, near present-day Tucson, Arizona. In 1998, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary: clay jars buried more than 4,000 years ago. Inside them were mesquite seeds, perfectly preserved, still alive, still capable of growing. The people who stored them left no written language behind, but they understood survival better than we do today. In a land where corn failed and rivers vanished, mesquite never stopped producing food. Its roots reached deeper than any well, over 100 feet into the earth, tapping water sources untouched by drought. Scientists later discovered those roots could store hundreds of gallons of water, enough to survive years without rain. And the pods it produced were unlike anything else in nature, naturally sweet, rich in protein, packed with soluble fiber. When ground into flour, they didn't spoil, they didn't rot. They fed families for months. To the Tohono O'odham, it was our sugar. To the Pima, the Yaqui, and many others, it was life itself. Every summer, pods fell like rain. Families gathered them, dried them, ground them, and baked them into meals that carried them through winter. When Spanish explorers arrived in the 1500s, they were stunned. One wrote that the pods tasted like honey. Another described entire villages living beneath vast mesquite forests, their canopies creating cool, self-sustaining ecosystems in the desert heat. They called it the Tree of Life, and then everything changed. By the late 1800s, new owners claimed the land. Ranchers arrived with cattle, cotton, and an entirely different idea of value. To them, mesquite wasn't food. It wasn't medicine. It wasn't life. It was in the way. Sugar cane was imported. Mills were built. Agriculture became something you owned, controlled, and profited from. Mesquite didn't fit that system. It grew without irrigation, without fertilizer, without permission. So millions of acres were cleared. Trees were cut, burned, poisoned. But mesquite doesn't surrender. Even when its trunk is destroyed, its roots remain alive, silent, patient, buried deep beneath the soil. For every tree cut down, 10 new shoots returned. After decades of trying to kill it, the U.S. Department of Agriculture finally admitted the truth in 1948. Mesquite cannot be eradicated. And while humans were busy fighting it, the tree was doing something else entirely. It was healing the land. By the early 1900s, ranchers thought they had won. Cattle replaced forests. Wilderness became productive. Then the soil began to die. Without mesquite's shade and roots, the ground cracked. Wind carried the topsoil away. Rivers dried. Grass vanished. Cattle starved. And slowly, mesquite came back. Scientists noticed something strange. Where mesquite returned, the soil changed. Its roots pulled nitrogen from the air, something only a few plants on Earth can do, restoring fertility to dead ground. Under its canopy, temperatures dropped. Moisture returned. Grass grew again. Wildlife followed. By the 1970s, ecologists gave it a new title, a keystone species. The silent engineer of the desert. Its pods fed deer and coyotes. Its flowers fed native bees. Its wood sheltered birds and insects. The plant once called a weed had been holding the ecosystem together all along. So a question emerged. If this tree survived every drought in recorded history and repaired the land beneath it, why did we ever abandon it? By the 1990s, the desert forced us to ask that question again. Droughts deepened across the American Southwest. Farmers searched for crops that could survive without water. Scientists looked back at mesquite. What they found shocked them. Its flowers contained more calcium than milk. Its protein rivaled eggs. And it needed no irrigation, no fertilizer, no chemical inputs. At the same time, the world was drowning in sugar and suffering because of it. Global sugar consumption exploded. Diabetes rates tripled. Doctors searched for sweetness without damage. In 2005, researchers discovered why mesquite had never caused the same harm. Its sweetness comes from fructooligosaccharides, plant sugars that feed healthy gut bacteria instead of spiking blood sugar. Low glycemic, slow energy, no crash. One scientist wrote, "This is sugar that heals instead of harms." By 2010, mesquite flour appeared in health stores across the United States. Prices soared. Chefs began baking bread, making desserts, even ice cream. An ancient survival food became a modern luxury. But the true revival didn't start in laboratories. It started with memory. Around 2012, indigenous farmers and elders began planting mesquite again, not as a trend, but as a return. Old seeds were taken from jars hidden for generations. A Tohono O'odham farmer planted them near dry washes where water once flowed. Within 2 years, the trees were heavy with pods. She said the smell brought back childhood mornings, roasting pods at sunrise. By 2018, seed banks across the Southwest began collecting mesquite varieties. Botanists identified over 30 native species, each adapted to its own desert. The world was relearning an old truth. Real resilience doesn't come from factories. It grows quietly in the heat. By 2020, global droughts shattered records, crops failed, rivers disappeared. Scientists asked one final question: what survives when everything else fails? Once again, the answer pointed to mesquite. NASA researchers studying future crops noted its roots can reach nearly 200 feet underground. One scientist said, "It's less a tree and more a lesson in endurance." Governments took notice. Mexico began replanting hundreds of thousands of hectares. Farmers across Africa, Asia, and South America followed. The Food and Agriculture Organization called it a forgotten crop of survival. The tree once erased now stands as a blueprint for the future. Every pod, every root, every branch carries a message. The answers to tomorrow's hunger are already beneath our feet. They were never lost. They were waiting for us to remember. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and ring the bell. Every share keeps this forgotten knowledge alive. The next vault opens soon.